welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Turn the Page. I'm your host today, Jen, and today I am joined by a very prolific writer who is here to talk about an absolutely delightful new book. It is part thriller, largely comedy, but there's so much interesting genre stuff going on, and I am very excited to talk about all of it. So, welcome to the show. Could I ask you to introduce yourself and your book, please?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sheila Roberts, and I do love to write. And the name of my book is The Man Next Door.
It's so much fun. Before we talk about the book itself, I'd love to ask you about your journey as a writer. You've written a lot of other things, and you've written in all sorts of genres. I'm curious about what you think your what writing across so many different genres and themes and ideas has brought to your writing.
That's a very interesting question. Part of me, I don't know about you, but well, I love podcasts. What a cool thing that I happen to be getting to do one with you. But I love the whole thing of self-discovery and improving your life and making things better. And so I did delve a little into that, and I'm hoping to do more in the future. Just writing some things that can be encouraging to women as they go through their daily lives and meet the various challenges that arise. So was a big part. I've done all kinds of things over the year. I've done devotionals, I've done write for hire books, and all kinds of things. And I feel like in some ways that's not a bad thing. I feel like it kind of expands your horizons as a writer. And of course, I also think that it takes many years as a writer just to find your own unique voice and build who you are. And over the years, I have realized that part of my voice is I want to add some humor in wherever I can. I don't want to write, I just don't want to write a serious, depressing book. And I know that those have a place, definitely, and especially if it's issue oriented, but I feel like there are enough of those out there in the world. And with times so turbulent, I think sometimes it's nice to be able to just give somebody something to smile over. Yes, there's usually is going to be some kind of hidden message of encouragement in there, but I just kind of want people to have a chance to escape whatever they're going through for just a little while and be able to recharge their batteries.
Mm, That's lovely. And I think that is like very evident in this book. I'd love to talk about the humor first. One of the characters says there is nothing calm about Rom, but this book is very calm.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad.
Yeah. And I'd love if you could talk a little bit about um your your three main characters perhaps and how
Yeah.
you use humor to explore their relationships.
Well, I just think, and we're all wired so differently, aren't we? And I come from a family that they definitely exercise their humor muscles. And so there was a lot of joking and wisecracking in my life growing up. And I think sometimes that just sort of seeps into your personality. And I did have a good time with my characters, especially the character of Louise. Louise is often the voice of wisdom, but she's also a little bit of I don't know, a little bit of a Lucy Ricardo, isn't she? She's just kind of this humorous woman, and you get a glimpse into what a goofball Louise is when in the early scene when you're first meeting her. This is set in California, and out here on the West Coast, we sometimes have some shakes and shivers as plates shift, and there's been a little baby earthquake going on, and she's not an earthquake girl. And she's like, we've got her huddling in the doorway with her dog and praying, oh God, please don't let me die. I'm wearing my old underwear. And I mean, actually, that's often been a concern of mine. My mother always said, don't go anywhere. If you're going out in public, don't wear your old underwear because you can get in a car accident. You don't know. And not that anybody really cares what your underwear are if you're in a car accident, but it's just kind of that. And so you kind of get a little glimpse into her, and has a very overactive imagination, which of course kind of starts the whole story spinning. She's a bit of a meddler and a matchmaker, but she's got a good heart, and she wants what's best for her daughter and her granddaughter. So, but I think she's like my favorite character in the book. I dearly love Zona and root for her, and I root for Zona's daughter Bree, but my heart belongs to Louise.
Yeah, she is absolutely so much fun. She reminded me a little bit with her sort of nosiness and her over investment in her neighbors of like Gladys from Bewitched a
Oh
little.
yes.
And
Yes.
but the image that everybody has of Gladys, because like of course Gladys is correct about what's going on next door, but everybody thinks she's, like a little loony.
Yeah.
Um, but there's something that's so delightful about, and you're right, she is sort of like the wise fool, because she has lots of wisdom, but she's deeply silly and,
Oh, I
brings
love that. The wise fool.
yeah.
That's a great term. I've never heard that before. That's a great term. I love that.
So I'd love if you could talk about, writing three generations of women. I think that, even though this book has this sort of thriller-esque mystery plot about like what a neighbor may or may not be up to. Um, there are these three women at the heart of the book, and their emotional journey is so, so much of it. So, what was it like to sort of write about their intergenerational, I guess, relationships and sort of like how they reflect, changing, I guess, the stuff that changes in between generations and different perspectives and things like that.
I loved doing that. And you're right about changing perspectives with generations. I've been all three now because now I'm a Louise myself, but I've been a Zona and a Bree. And I love Bree's story. When you're young, you're still trying to figure it all out and get things sorted. And middle age, sometimes, although I wouldn't say Zona's quite middle age, but in your 40s, you start really figuring life out. You've gone through some bumps, and now you're about to come into your own personal power. And then with the older woman, I feel like we need our older women. We need multi-generational friendships, and we need the older women in our families, in our lives, because by the time you are older, theoretically, you've learned a few things, you have some wisdom to share, and you can be helpful to the younger generation. And I like trying to include more than one generation in a story because I think that's important. And often had older women reach out to me and say, thank you for not making it just be 20-year-olds because, I don't care if you're 20, 40, or 60, inside you're still this youthful spirit and you still have a life and you still want love. And I think it's really important to celebrate that. And so I do try to do that in a lot of my books so that there's just not one generation story going on, but we're showing how they all intermix. And with these three women, I hope that readers will see that and see how we can all be there for each other. I know we've got a big trend going on in the culture now where kids are just dumping their parents and no contact and you're out of my life. And that makes me really sad because we all have so much to give to each other. And I think that's an important thing to remember. And maybe if I can celebrate that in the book and it'll encourage some other moms and daughters to realize how important they are to each other, then hey, I've done a good job, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's really interesting that like when you include different generations in a story, it can create so much character development for everybody, and move the plot forward in really interesting ways because every generation has the things that make their perspective unique and the things that they can offer, but also maybe like their little blind spots or the things that they are like a little less aware of or have a different idea of. And so them getting to connect about like what they what they share, what they differ about. It's really, and it generates a lot of comedy too, I think. Like that's a really
Oh,
great.
I think so too. And you know what? The old can learn from the young. Sometimes you get a little cocky at a certain age and you think you know it all, and you don't. There's always something we can learn from each other, and that's why I feel like with women's friendships, we can almost all find something we have in common because just of who we are and what we do to make the world a better place.
Absolutely. Um, I'd love to talk about let's say, what went into shaping the new neighbor, Alec? I don't want to, I'm going to keep this very broad because I don't want to reveal anything that you're not comfortable having revealed. But there's a very interesting neighbor in the story, a new neighbor that Louise gets some interesting ideas about. So could you talk a little bit about building Alec and maybe like the influences that went into shaping him and like the story around him? There's like a lot of interesting genres at play, like thriller and like almost noir-y type stuff. And then it parodies some interesting, like recent developments in literature. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, and I'm not normally a thriller mystery writer kind of girl, and I just thought this would be such a fun thing to do to just rewrite and amp up Rear Window and just a new version of that. And so, of course, if you're doing that, you've got to have the bad guy to spy on. And what I like about our man here next door is Alex, is that he is kind of a shapeshifter. And one minute he seems normal and friendly, and of course he's good looking. And mom first spies him and thinks, what a perfect man for my daughter. And her daughter has had a couple of love fails through no fault of her own. She's just, things have not worked out well for her in the romance department. And her mom is wanting to see her find somebody wonderful to spend her life with. And this guy seems like a good candidate. And then just weird things start happening. This woman shows up, and all of a sudden she's staying there next door, and is that his girlfriend? And they start hearing violent fighting, and things just kind of devolve from there. And when I was doing that, one of the things that danced in my back of the mind was, well, a couple of different movies besides Rear Window. One was called What Lies Beneath, and it had Harrison Ford. And I can't think of the actress's name off the top of my head. Really beautiful actress, but
Michelle Pfeiffer in that, I think.
what is it?
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yes, thank you. Have
Mhm.
you seen that movie?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I can picture her face. But yes, and so, she's kind of spying on the neighbors and looking, and she can hear through the fence. And I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? That would be a fun thing to incorporate in this book. It's like we can't really see what's going on over there, but we can hear, and it doesn't sound good. And I thought that was kind of a fun way to just start weaving some mystery, and is he or isn't he? What is going on? And I had a really good time just trying to figure out how to make that kind of mystery and get a fog, just kind of a fog surrounding what's going on in that house next door, without totally terrifying everyone and anyone. I want people to be able to turn the lights on off after they go to bed
Yeah.
and not go I'm not a scary person. In fact, I'll just tell you, this has nothing to do with writing, but it's just kind of a funny story. I'm just a real sissy, and I think it comes with having an overactive imagination. And years ago, we had a couple, we got into the habit, we would watch scary movies. And I would spend the half the time just hiding in my sweater going, I can't look, I can't look. And then it'd be time, the friends would leave, be time to go to bed. Who's going to be the last one to turn out the lights? Well, then it was the big race, because whoever came in last, there'd be somebody waiting, hiding in a closet, under the bed, or some horrible. And so we would play these horrible tricks on each other, scare the snot out of each other. And I'm still not a big horror kind of girl, but we were talking about this coming Halloween. Oh, it'd be fun to watch a scary movie. And there was one that I had suggested, and my husband kind of vetoed it. He goes, no, it's going to give you AFib. It's going to make your heart race. So we're going to find a Halloween comedy. So I don't want to necessarily scare people. I want them to have a little taste of a thrill. But if somebody's like me, I don't want them to be like hiding under the covers and wondering what's lurking to get them.
I love that. Yeah, this is going to be part of our sort of, our podcast Halloween spectacular. And so I'm glad that we have like a number of genre offerings. We'll run the gamut between like super scary and like, like thriller comedy, like having, spooky vibes, but still like a cozy story in a lot of ways that's very
Right.
affirming, yeah, and uplifting.
Something for everyone, because a lot of people do like those really scary, dark movies. And I have heard that horror is on the rise right now. All of a sudden, everybody's wanting to read horror. So, it's like good for them. I'm just going to kind of keep hiding under the bed covers, but you guys go for it.
I always find it interesting what different motivations and reasons people go to reading and to literature and movies and stuff like that. We all have a lot of different motivations and
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
yeah. So what is on the horizon for you? I know that you just because of your output, it sounds like you are always writing, but are you working right now?
Yeah, there is. Yep. We've got a book coming out. I'm trying to get that whipped into shape even as we speak. The working title, I believe we're going to keep that title, is Love on the Shelf, and that's going to be a bit of a battle of the sexes between a misogynist shock jock and the lady who owns the romance bookstore. She's going to hopefully get him whipped into shape, and so that's just kind of a lighthearted, fun read, and again a little bit of an observation of some of the things going on in the culture right now. It feels like we're sort of alienated a little bit, the sexes, rather than pulling together. We're sort of pulling apart. And I am hoping, the pendulum always swings one way or the other. I'm hoping it can swing more to the middle. And so, anyway, we'll see what happens with that book, but I'm having fun working on it.
Oh, great. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. And so good luck with writing that. And thank you for taking time, away from it to speak with us.
Thank you. I just really appreciate you having me on. It was lovely to get a chance to meet you. And we all love our libraries and librarians, I gotta say. Oh my goodness. I don't know where writers would be without you because you're a wonderful resource. In fact, you're a wonderful resource for anyone needing help or wanting to find that special book or do some research. Our libraries are a treasure.
Oh, thank you. Well, we can't do our jobs without you, so thank you as well.
Um,
All right. So listeners, please check out The Man Next Door. When you hear this, it'll be out in the world, so you can go to your favorite website, library, bookstore. Do you have a favorite bookstore that you like to send people to?
Liberty Bay Books in Paulsville, Washington. That's not too far from where I live. So if someone wants a signed book, they can just call that bookstore and place their order and say, make her come in and sign a book. So, but you know what? I'm also big on because I realize there are so many great books to read out there. So many books, so little time, and sometimes so little money. And so I tell people, look, if you can't afford that in your budget, ask your library to bring the book in. Libraries support authors too. And if you can't buy it, your library will buy it for you. So, if anyone listening is going, well, doggone, now I've heard about all these cool books. I cannot afford to go out and buy all of these. Well, then just contact your local library and say, hey, would you please put in an order for this? And I know they'd be happy to help.
100%. Thank you so much for saying that. We are always so happy to get any books for our patrons, and that goes for any librarian across the country and probably the world, I imagine. So,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah. Well, thank you again. This has been really lovely.
Thanks. Thank you for having me.
No problem. And listeners, thank you for joining us. It is now time to close this chapter.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.